At the draw, Gregg Berhalter talked a lot about your relationship, and he said that you've bounced ideas off each other in the past. Could you just give us an idea of what that was like, what sort of things you discussed?
Yeah, well, initially, Gregg reached out to me after 2018, and we met in London, and I really enjoyed his company, and we had a good discussion about coaching, and he asked me a few things about how I'd approach things with the national team. But you could see that he was smart, he was intelligent, he had a very clear idea on how he wanted his team to play, good coaching background. And I've seen the evolution in the team as well in that period that he's been in charge. So I know, like all national coaches, he'll be getting some stick at home, but I think that's just the way it goes. So, and we've met a few times since, although I'd have to say our conversations have dried up a bit in the last few months, understandably. But he's a good guy, and yeah, I think he's done a really good job.
I just wondered in that context what you made of sort of the pressure on Christian Pulisic, because he's Captain America, he's dubbed over there, he's the poster boy for the team. I just wondered if you see sort of similarities in what he has to endure with players like Wayne Rooney and David Beckham and players we've had here in the past.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been fortunate that I lived that life in an England camp with Gascoigne at the start, with David Beckham, and with probably Wayne Rooney in terms of we had other really outstanding players that you could argue were more influential for the team than some of those guys, but their world was different. They were big box office, big story, big news story, front and back pages. It is pressure, you know. There's no hiding from that. You're on another level. That comes with great rewards and adulation and big marketing and sponsorship deals. But in the end, if you don't deliver on the pitch, then everything comes down more heavily on those guys.
What do you make of Pulisic as a player?
I obviously watched him a fair bit at Dortmund because we had Jadon Sancho there at the time. That adaptation from the Bundesliga to the Premier League isn't straightforward for a start. I think the level of the biggest games is similar, you know, if you're playing Bayern Munich or Leipzig. But then when you drop down the league, I think there's a big difference between the spending power in the bottom half of the Premier League, where they can basically take players from some of the biggest clubs in Europe, and the bottom half of most of the other leagues in Europe, where that depth isn't there. So I think that takes some adjusting to not only the physical nature of our league, but the intensity of every match. And of course, he's had 2 or 3 coaches to deal with. So I think there's been moments where he's looked like he's on his way and he's flowing, and he's got a coach that believes in him, and he's had to deal with then setbacks with injury, and he would probably feel he hasn't quite got to where he wants to get to yet, I'd imagine. But he's a very good player, and he's a player that when you're looking at the opposition team sheet, he's definitely somebody that you've got to be aware of and ready for.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN+.